Eating out used to be a way for Americans to save money. That is right, you heard me correctly. But in 2026, it has become one of the fastest ways to burn through your money. The American restaurant industry was built on a very clear promise, convenience, a good value, and food good enough to make customers come back. Now, a lot of places are betraying that very promise. They turned a money-saving habit into a deal that is no longer worth it. Then when customers walk away, they call it a crisis. So who really walked away from whom? First today, we are going to look at why restaurants across America are losing customers and closing their doors. You will see that rising costs are real, but not every price increase is reasonable. And when every bit of pressure gets pushed onto the bill, you are still the one who ends up paying for it. This is not just a story about a few empty tables. It shows that Americans are cutting out expenses they once treated as a normal part of life. Watch until the end. Restaurants do not change because people complain. They only change when customers stop paying. A quick meal has turned into a major expense. Would you believe me if I told you fast food is now so expensive that you have to check your bank balance before ordering a meal that used to feel completely normal, can now make an entire family figure out what they need to cut back on that week? Just look at this receipt.
Has Chipotle lost its mind? My son and I just got done at the gym with a workout. We went into Chipotle. We got 2 bowls and 2 drinks. And granted, we did get double meat, but we didn't get chips. We didn't get guac. $52.64 for 2 bowls and 2 drinks.
$52.64. I hear that number and can only think this is still Chipotle. I know they ordered double meat. I'm not going to hide that just to make the bill sound scarier. But they did not order chips, they did not get guacamole, and they were not sitting in a full-service restaurant. Customers still had to stand in line, choose their own ingredients, get their own drinks, and clear their own trays. More than $26 per person for a quick meal after the gym. I am willing to pay more when I order more food, but I do not understand why simply mentioning double meat suddenly makes a bill over $50 seem normal. A fast food meal now costs as much as a decent dinner, while the experience is still just standing in line and looking for an empty table. Fast food used to sell convenience. You stopped and ordered your usual meal, had a pretty good idea what it would cost, and moved on with your day. Now you have to add up the main item, the extras, the drink, the tax, and the tip before you even feel comfortable ordering. One time I stood in front of the menu so long that the person behind me thought I could not decide what I wanted. The truth was, I was trying to figure out whether I was buying a quick meal or spending everything I'd set aside for the entire evening. When you have to think that long, the meal has already lost the very thing it used to sell at convenience. I told myself maybe Chipotle was just expensive because of the extra meat. Then I saw this price.
I remember when a 12-piece family meal was $12.99. Now it's $43. I was okay when it was $23.99, $28.99, but $43.99? That is crazy.
I do not expect a family meal to stay at $12.99 forever. I've seen prices rise before and told myself meat costs more, employees need to be paid, and rent probably went up too. Customers have been making compromises for years. They skip the drinks, skip the sides, and pick up the food themselves to avoid delivery fees. But nearly $44 for a family chicken meal made me stop. From $12.99 to $23.99, then $28.99, customers kept adjusting. At $43.99, the question is no longer whether you can afford it. The question is whether the meal is still worth it. Businesses need to survive, but customers cannot keep stretching their wallets forever. Prices that used to be reserved for special occasions are now showing up in meals that are not special at all. My grandfather used to say a steakhouse dinner costing $40 to $60 per person was something the whole family had to discuss ahead of time. People went for birthdays or anniversaries, got a table service, enjoyed a decent atmosphere, and felt like they were treating themselves to something completely different from an ordinary meal. Now, a quick chicken meal costs nearly $44. 2 people stopping at Chipotle can pay more than $52. Fast food has not turned into a steakhouse. Only the bills and getting close to special occasion prices. And do not say, if it is too expensive, just eat at home. Maybe the customer just finished a long shift, is taking care of aging parents, has retired, or simply wants to take the grandchildren out for burgers without turning it into a financial decision. In the end, we are still the ones who change first. We skip the drinks, skip the sides, eat out less often, then go back to cooking even when we are already exhausted. Restaurants say they are also being squeezed by food costs, labor rent, and all kinds of fees. But how much do those reasons really explain? And why does all that pressure always end up landing directly on the customer's bill? Every cost, eventually gets passed on to the customer. Restaurants say the prices are going up because food, labor, rent, and utilities all cost more. This time, they have real reasons. Just look at the cost for this one pizza shop.
Let's talk about how much it costs to run this location. Around $44,000 a month we pay for food, and that's our biggest expenses. $26,400 on labor, which is our second biggest cost. The rent of this location is around $10,500, and that does not include the $600 gas bill or the $1,800 a month in electric bill. We spent about $1,000 in advertising.
$44,000 a month for food, more than $26,000 for labor, $10,500 in rent, and not counting electricity, gas repairs, and plenty of other expenses. According to the owner, this location needs around $133,200 a month just to operate properly. When I hear numbers like that, I understand that the price of a pizza cannot be based only on flour and cheese. The restaurant still pays rent on slow nights. The refrigerators keep running after closing. Employees still need their paychecks. And kitchen equipment always seems to break right when the bank account is at its lowest. But those costs do not stay inside the accounting books. They push menu prices higher, make portions smaller, turn side dishes into separate charges, and force a lot of restaurants to cut staff. The burger goes up by $2. Fries are no longer included. The drink costs almost $4, so you skip it. There are fewer employees, so the food takes longer. Then at checkout, a new fee shows up, and the screen still asks whether you want to tip 25 or 30%. You pay more, get less, and do more of the work yourself. At this point, I cannot just nod and say, I guess costs went up. Food prices can change one item. But higher rent can make the entire restaurant disappear.
And today, I just got word that I might not be able to stay in the same lease because of rent increase, which is the reality for so many people.
A friend of mine who opened a coffee shop once complained to me about this exact problem. People on the outside always say, if the rent goes up, just raise the price of coffee. They make it sound as simple as changing one number on the board and going home to sleep peacefully. But raise prices and regular customers come less often, keep prices the same, and there's not enough money to cover the rent. Moving to another location means paying a deposit, renovating the space, buying equipment, and hoping the old customers are willing to follow. A small business needs its community to survive, but when rent goes up, the fastest way to stay alive is to charge that same community more. Customers order fewer drinks, skip the sides, or stop coming as often. Each table leaves less money behind while the lease does not drop by 1 cent. And the thing that saves the restaurant this month may leave it weaker next month. I know the owner has rent to pay, but you have housing costs too. The restaurant has an electric bill and yours is still sitting on the table. The difference is that the restaurant can change the prices on the menu while you cannot give yourself a raise. An item going up by $3 may not sound like much, but a family of 4 is paying $12 more before fries, drinks, taxes, and the tip. By the end of the bill, the increase can reach $20. $20 can buy milk, eggs, and bread for a few days, put gas in the car for work, or cover part of a prescription. Restaurants can move their costs onto the menu. Customers only have 3 choices left: pay more, order less, or go home. And more people are choosing to go home. Restaurant prices are forcing Americans to change the way they eat. What do you do when your budget can no longer cover housing, gas, medicine, and a meal out? You cannot put off the electric bill or skip a prescription. So restaurants are usually the first thing to get cut. And that is why shopping methods like this are spreading so quickly.
If you're new to the 6-to-1 method, it's super simple. Whenever you go grocery shopping, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, I don't care if you go to Erewhon, use the 6-to-1 method. You grab 6 veggies, 5 fruits, 4 proteins, 3 starches, 2 sauces or spreads, and 1 fun thing for yourself. This makes grocery shopping way easier, way cheaper.
6 vegetables, 5 fruits, 4 protein sources, 3 starches, 2 sauces, and 1 treat. It sounds like a grocery shopping trick, but it actually helps people stay in control for the entire week. They know what they're going to eat, what they need to buy, and roughly how much they're going to spend. What I like most is that it stops the most dangerous moment of all. It is late, you are already tired, you open the refrigerator and realize that there is nothing you can really cook. A few seconds later, the delivery app is open and an ordinary dinner has turned into a $35 or $40 bill. A well-stocked refrigerator can beat the convenience of a restaurant. At first, people just skip the drink because almost $4 is too much. Then they stop ordering appetizers, skip dessert, and drive over to pick up the food themselves to avoid delivery fees. Then eating out to twice a week turns into twice a month. Eventually, they make a list to prepare food ahead of time and bring lunch from home. Restaurants do not always lose customers after an argument. A lot of customers disappear very quietly. My brother's family once spent nearly $100 on a lunch with 2 adult meals, 1 kid's meal, an appetizer, and drinks. He did not ask for the manager, he did not leave a 1-star review. He just looked at his wife and said, "Next time we are cooking at home." That is the part restaurants should really worry about. A complaint still gives the business a chance to fix something. But when a family changes its habits, they may disappear for months. Last weekend, one of my relatives hosted a cookout for 14 adults and 2 children. The total cost was around $141. There was beef, chicken, smoked potatoes, dessert, and they still had leftovers at the end. That comes out to about $10 per person. But the money was not even the biggest win. Nobody was being rushed to give up the table. There were no surprise fees. There was no tip screen turning towards you right when everyone was having a good time. The whole family could sit there as long as they wanted. This is where restaurants start losing on both price and experience. People do not suddenly become cheap. They are protecting their gas money, medicine money, retirement savings, and time. For someone who just finished a shift or is taking care of aging parents, cooking another meal can be exhausting. But when eating out keeps throwing the budget off, they still have to choose the kitchen. High prices make customers step back. But quality service and those final added fees are what decide whether they ever come back. Customers are doing more of the work, but paying more. Oh, this may be the part that leaves customers the most speechless. The price goes up, but the food in front of you is so small you have to hold up your fingers just to compare it. The customer in the clip says this is a 6 Oz steak. The video does not put the meat on a scale, so I cannot say for sure that it is underweight. But the fact that someone has to look at the plate and wonder whether they got the portion they paid for already tells you there is a trust problem. And this does not stop with one piece of steak. Burgers no longer come with fries. Appetizers cost almost as much as the main course. The actual portions are smaller than the pictures in the ads. Food gets arranged nicely on a plate, topped with a little sauce, and sold as premium even when there's nothing special underneath. An old friend who worked at a small bar and restaurant and told me their $35 steak came with instant potatoes, canned vegetables, and a frozen lava cake that had been reheated. I have nothing against frozen food. My freezer is full of it too. But when I pay restaurant prices because I believe there is a kitchen preparing seasoning and actually making the food, I want to see that effort on the plate. What makes it even stranger is that a lot of restaurants have different names and different signs, but the food looks exactly the same. The same fries, the same lava cake, the same sauce with only the plate, and the number on the bill changing. People often blame Cisco or other major distributors, but someone I know in the industry told me they also sell meat, vegetables, and raw ingredients. The distributor does not force a restaurant to buy powdered mashed potatoes or fully prepared desserts. Management is still the one choosing the cheapest, fastest, and easiest option to serve. The delivery truck does not decide the quality. The restaurant does. Then there is tipping. If you cannot afford to tip, do not eat out. A lot of customers heard that and took it literally. They stopped going. You order at the counter, get your own drink, carry the food to your table, and sometimes clear your own tray. But before you even get the food, the screen is already asking for a 25%, 30%, or even higher tip. Then there are taxes, service fees, card fees, and charges that only become clear at the very end. Customers do not want workers to earn less. The employees are trapped in this system too. But after paying the menu price and all the added fees, why is the customer still expected to decide how much of the worker's missing pay gets covered? And now, service is being pushed onto the phone too. My aunt says that if a restaurant only gives her a QR code, she will get up and leave. It is not because she hates technology. She just does not want dinner to begin, with finding her glasses, opening the camera, waiting for the page to load, and zooming in on every line. Kiosk apps and AI are only improvements when they make things easier for the customer. If the customer has to enter the order check for mistakes and find someone to fix them while prices keep rising, that is not convenience. That is moving the work onto the buyer. Another friend who used to work in a kitchen told me even worse stories about cleanliness. I cannot verify those claims, and I will not use them to make a judgment about the entire industry, but they show how quickly trust can fall apart. Customers may tolerate one price increase. What is much harder to swallow is paying more, getting smaller portions, watching the service disappear, seeing fees show up at the end, and still not knowing what they are actually paying for. Restaurants are turning from gathering places into transaction assembly lines. I do not walk into a restaurant just to buy a plate of the food. If the only goal is to fill my stomach, I can stand in the kitchen, make a sandwich, and be done in 10 minutes. I eat out because I want one evening where I do not have to think about it, what to cook, what to wash, or who is going to clear the table. I want to sit with my family without someone constantly getting up to check the oven. I want to meet friends somewhere other than a house, an office, or a parking lot. Put simply, people are paying for a chance to take a break. Near a place where I used to live, there was a small restaurant run by an older Greek couple. It did not have fancy lighting for pictures. The menu did not need 8 pages either. But they remembered which customers liked extra sauce, who always ordered the same meal, and which family had someone in the hospital. One time I walked in, and the husband looked at me, and immediately asked the usual today. Just one sentence like that can turn a strange place into somewhere familiar. Then the rent went up. The couple decided to close instead of passing the entire increase onto their customers. I still remember looking at the close sign in front of the restaurant. It was not just the food that disappeared. The whole neighborhood lost the 2 people. Behind the counter, those short conversations, and a place where nobody had to introduce themselves all over again every time they walked in. And what bothers me is that places like that are often replaced by spaces that are brighter, cleaner, more expensive, and completely empty of memories. You walk in, complete the transaction, and eat and leave. The tables and chairs look like every other place. The menu looks like every other place. There are so few employees that nobody has time to look up. Everything is arranged to serve you as quickly as possible, but nobody really makes you feel welcome anymore. If the food is not different, the space has no personality, and nobody remembers who you are, what does the restaurant still offer that your own kitchen cannot do better? My grandfather told me that when he was young, his family only ate out a few times a month. Every visit felt like a special occasion. Maybe America is heading back to that time. But if eating out becomes a rare event again, people are going to choose very carefully. They will not spend their money at a place that simply drops food on the table and then quickly wants the table back. Restaurants used to be places where communities came together. When that disappears, empty tables are no longer a surprise. They are the customer's answer. Customers are eating out less, and the restaurant industry is feeling it. But hold on. It is easy to look at an empty restaurant and think if they charge prices like that, maybe they deserve to close. I used to react that way too. And then my neighbor bought a smoker that cost nearly $1,000. His first few batches were not impressive at all. Sometimes the meat came out dry. One time the whole family had to wait until almost 9 at night to eat. But after one summer he had learned how to control the temperature, choose the right wood, and make enough food for an entire group of friends. He told me, now I have no reason to wait in line for 1 hour and pay a few $100s for barbecue. That is no longer an angry customer. That is a customer who has already built his way out. Other people buy food in bulk at Costco. They bring lunch to work, pack food for long trips, host birthday parties at home, or only visit restaurants when there is a deal that is actually worth it. Some people still order food but drive over and pick it up themselves. Others simply keep the money. Once people have bought the equipment, learned the recipes, and even changed the way they spend time with friends, restaurants cannot easily win them back with a weekend discount. And the money does not disappear. It moves to grocery stores, local businesses, prepared foods, or stays in the family's bank account. Restaurants are no longer just competing with the place across the street. They are competing with the grill in the backyard, and the feeling that customers can make a better meal themselves. But this is the part I cannot feel good about. An empty table today can turn into a cut shift next week. When revenue falls, restaurants reduce their hours, order at fewer supplies, and put off hiring. Servers lose tips. Cooks lose shifts. Suppliers lose orders. And if the restaurant closes for good, the neighborhood gets another dark storefront. And the person who gets hit first is usually not the person who decided the prices. Employees do not write the menu, sign the lease, or choose the business strategy, but they are the ones who lose hours or lose their jobs with almost no warning. Of course, not every restaurant closes because customers ran out of money. Some are carrying debt, picked the wrong location, were poorly managed, or have an owner who wants to retire. But when more and more customers figure out how to live without restaurants, that is no longer a temporary wave of anger. It is a change that could make the entire industry smaller. Why are some restaurants still packed while others keep getting emptier? I once asked the owner of a small place near my home why his customers kept coming back while so many restaurants around him were getting quieter. He did not talk about marketing strategy apps or membership programs. He just pointed to the $5 to $50 cheeseburger with fries and said they know what they are going to get. And maybe the answer really is that simple. That place is an old-fashioned diner. Adding fries to a sandwich only costs 50 cents. There are no mystery fees. There's no long story trying to turn a regular burger into a premium experience. You order the food, they bring it out, and the bill matches what you saw on the menu. I do not know whether they own the building, have an old lease, or are willing to accept a smaller profit. So I'm not going to use one restaurant to claim that every place can sell burgers at that price. But that restaurant proves people are still willing to eat out when the deal makes sense. And makes sense does not always mean cheapest. Some local places charge more for a burger, but the portions are bigger, the ingredients are better, and the food is consistent every time. Some casual restaurants keep customers by offering clear meal deals so a family knows the total before ordering. Some small pizza shops do not try to make 70 different dishes. They focus on a few things they actually do well. Someone I know who worked in the industry told me a menu with around 12 to 14 items is usually easier to manage. I do not treat that like a rule, but I would rather choose a kitchen that makes 14 dishes well than a place selling everything from pasta to sushi without making anything memorable. The restaurants that keep their customers usually get a few very basic things right: clear prices, reasonable portions, consistent food, decent employees, and no guessing games for the customer. A restaurant does not have to beat the family kitchen at everything, but it has to win at least one thing: better food, more convenience, and more warmth, or something more special. People have not turned their backs on restaurants. They have just stopped rewarding places that no longer give them a reason to come back. Customers have the right to say no, and restaurants still have to take responsibility. And here's the most uncomfortable question, not just for restaurants, but for all of us if we already know the food is not worth the price. See all the extra fees and still come back the next week. What will the business learn? It will learn that we are still willing to accept it. I have looked at a bill, told myself it was the last time, and then gone back if it ate a few weeks later because I was too tired to think about dinner. But my complaints do not mean much if I keep swiping the same card. A business can ignore an angry comment. It has a much harder time ignoring falling revenue. That does not mean you have to count every cent like an accountant whenever you want to eat. But before you confirm the order, look at the total instead of just the price of the main item. How much do the fries cost separately? Is the price higher in the app than it is at the restaurant? How high do delivery fees, extra charges, taxes, and the tip push the bill? Is the portion big enough? What is the restaurant giving you that you cannot do for yourself at home? The question should not just be, can I afford to pay for this? The better question is, does this meal deserve my money? But I also do not like hearing people casually say, if you do not like it, do not buy it. Older people, people with disabilities, people working 2 shifts, people caring for young children, or people without a full kitchen do not always have many choices. For them, ready-made food or delivery may be a necessity, not a luxury. So freedom of choice cannot become an excuse to put all the responsibility on the customer. Restaurants still have to display prices, clearly disclose extra fees ahead of time, explain tipping, use honest pictures, and offer at least one way to order that does not require a phone. If they want customers to pay more, they have to show where the extra value is. A bill is not just a payment. It is a vote for the kind of service that will still exist tomorrow. Restaurants are not disappearing because Americans suddenly stop loving eating out. A lot of places are pushing customers away with higher prices, less of an experience, and bills that are getting harder and harder to understand. You and I can both understand that restaurants are under pressure from rent, labor, ingredients, and operating costs. But customers are also carrying housing costs, insurance, medicine, gas, and groceries. Every time a business struggles, it cannot keep pushing everything else straight onto the buyer. No, pay attention. Do not just ask whether you can afford it. Ask whether that place still deserves your money. Tell me what you think. Are you still eating out as often as before? Only going when there is a good deal, or have you moved most of your meals back home? Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and suggest the next topic you want us to break down together.